Hey everyone, my name is Abhijit. I'm a certified life coach and a mental fitness enabler. Welcome to my channel. I hope you're doing well, and today we're going to be delving into the topic of navigating burnout. Well, it's a very, very sensitive topic, isn't it? I mean, especially and specifically looking at like the corporate setup. As of 2023, there have been so many layoffs, and big MNCs are laying off people left, right, and center. And in the name of cost cutting, I can't begin to imagine as well how much of that is contributing to burnouts. And on the other hand, there is also the side to being overworked a lot, or just having to do a certain task repeatedly, and that leads to a lot of burnout as well, right? So the reason I'm touching upon these topics is that now I'm going to try going a lot deeper and much more specifically, and I'm going to categorize them into external pressures versus internal pressures, right? So we look at the external pressures first. First up, you going through a burnout, no shame. Okay, there's no shame to it. It's really, really okay. It happens, and it can happen to the best of the best. It can happen to anyone in any field doing anything at all, right? But essentially we need to understand where burning out comes from and what burning out is. So burning out is when you lose the drive to do what you want to do, or to simply do what you're doing. And it can be very, very dangerous at times, in fact all the time, because in many cases it may lead to a person, it may lead to a situation where a person may end up getting anxiety attacks, panic attacks. Many of them are also probably struggling with mental health disorders, in which case dealing with it is a lot harder. And more power to you. There's nothing to be ashamed of here. And I hope you're taking help from a therapist. I've put up a video before this on the difference between a therapist and a psychiatrist and a life coach. Do take a look at that video. I hope it helps you, so you know what kind of help to take. Now, the external pressures in one sense is simple economics. The way I see it is demand and supply. And when there's an imbalance between the two, right, one compensates for the other compensates for the other, there is never that equilibrium, never that ideal situation where demand and supply kind of meet. And the reason this is also the case is because now in geography there's a term called carrying capacity, right? And carrying capacity is essentially how much of population a certain geography can take, in one sense. And everybody knows what's happening with climate change, with politics, with all these macro factors, right? The way I look at them are macro factors. And it creates a situation where the supply is less and the demand is excessively high, because the competition is high, the number of people, the population, human population is beyond the carrying capacity. And so what happens is that there's a certain drive to want to deliver to that demand. And this is just like the macro level of looking at it, because down at like an associate level or an intern level, burnouts can happen even there. And the reason for that is because people also, companies for instance, they have a certain goal they want to achieve, and whatever they want to do is dictated by the legal system, by the politics around that. And by politics, I don't use the negative terminology here. My usage of the word politics here is along simply the lines of a set of policies that you have in place, both for your country's relationship with another country, export, import. That's the basic politics I'm referring to, not the negative connotation. So don't get me wrong. It's in terms of the policies, right? And it's one thing to also consider for a country, dealing with such a large population with so many different interests. It cannot be easy. And it's something that happens on that macro level, but on a slightly more micro level, right? What happens is the internal pressures start coming in. So you look at a company that you're working in, for instance, and that company wants to make a certain amount of revenue because that is how they can also survive. That is also how they can pay their employees, and that is how they can fight recession and inflation, etc. Right? So then what happens is that there is abundant work to do, but they don't have the money to pay, or sometimes it's also another issue to talk about in one sense, but there's sometimes way too much work and way too much expectation, way too much of everything. Like everything is dialed to like gear 5, and like everything is on hyperdrive, and there is fewer people, skilled people in that sense, who have so much more to get done with, right? And this is from like a corporate setup. You take a musician, for instance, the pressure of staying relevant, or a social media influencer, for instance, the pressure of staying relevant in today's world. There have been studies which have spoken about how our attention spans have reduced and how we have become a lot more of an instant demand culture in that sense, right? And there's a lot of videos, a lot of content online that talks about this. So I won't go into too much of that detail, but essentially what happens is the external pressure of things that happen about that you don't have any control over is affecting how your salary is being paid out to you, is affecting how you are going to be able to put out music, or which geography you're allowed to publish your content in, and which label comes in and endorses or produces your movie or your music. And so what happens is that there's already a lot of that internal work, the workload that falls on you, and then the internal pressure of, I have to be so and so by this age, I have to do so and so by this age, I have to accomplish this by this age. This of course comes from societal upbringing, family influences. You have to get married by this age, you have to do this by this age, do that by that age. And just saying it, as I'm actually saying it out loud, I can actually imagine someone somewhere burning out. And don't get overwhelmed, because these are the external and internal pressures, but there is hope. There is a way through this, right? So let's start with the external pressures first. To be honest, there may not always be a lot that you can do about it. But the best you can do in that sense is simply become a lot more educated about what is happening on a global level. Why is it that your salary is a certain way? Why is it that your pay structure is a certain way? Why is it that what is the policy going on in your country? Try and look at things with much more of curiosity to really understand why it is so. What that will do for you is give you a bit of an insight to understand that, hey, is this now a good time to leave my job and go work in another country, or leave this job and then maybe take up education elsewhere? Or is this the right time for me to leave what I'm doing and maybe do something of my own? It will give you an idea of where the country is, where you are in the world, where you are in the scheme of things. It gives you an opportunity to understand how things are. And again, bear this point, there is no need to conclude on what it is that you have to do. Simply become educated, aware of why things are the way they are. I think that is the first and most important step. And I'm trying to give you ways on like a macro level to look at the environment around you. Then comes the internal side. This part of it, you can definitely have control over. The internal pressures is what your family tells you, society tells you, what your own expectations of yourself are, right? That aspect of it is also something that I can help work with you on. As a life coach, I can help work with you on a roadmap that will help you to personalize a plan, and you can see what you can do best as you work on these internal factors to bring down your expectations, to simply break it down into smaller steps, actionable goals. I've put up a video also on mental fitness and how important it is to build your mental fitness. So do check it out as well. Your mental health is extremely important, and looking inward in today's day and age is more important than ever, because burning out also happens when you start looking around way too much, right? You've got to look enough to educate yourself, but not keep looking to then find answers and find solace in those answers. Simply looking at things as what they are, as how they are, is itself a very difficult thing to do, because you're often wearing a spectacle of somebody else's. This is how your father might look at things, this is how your teacher might look at things, this is how your boss might look at things. How do you look at things? So to be able to actually look at the external environment first begins with you looking internally. When you start looking internally and you start listening to your own mind and body and coming to terms with your own meaning and peace in life, and I've put up a video on that as well, on how you are meaning and you are life and you are purpose, and you don't need to really go looking outside. And do check out that video. In one sense, it also ties into how you can deal with burning out. And now more than ever, mental fitness is super crucial. So the way I look at it is, you have a certain capacity now with which you are running through the day. You're probably doing mundane tasks at work. You're feeling you're not being able to be creative enough. You've got pressures of maybe paying bills. You've got rent to pay. You've got loan to pay. You've got all these things that are happening. It's all probably all over the place, right? So to find that solace, to find that moment of peace and truce with yourself, so you stop fighting with yourself, means that you have to come to terms with who you really are and experience who you really are, and then hopefully someday you will realize who you really are, right? And I always think of this example that right now you're probably a power bank, and you have to go from being a power bank to being a transformer, meaning that you have a certain load that you can take. Now if I help you build your engine in a certain way that you go from a road vehicle to a racetrack car, the engine then becomes bigger, which means your fitness becomes bigger, your resilience becomes much more than before. You become a lot more proficient at handling uncertainty, difficulties and challenges and difficult situations, right? And you also, more and most importantly, develop the courage to make a decision. A lot of people who are burning out struggle to make decisions because their mind becomes cloudy. So looking inward is first clearing the windshield of all the fog, and then comes the courage to actually drive through that fog, drive through the uncertainty of it, right? So the way I look at it is to start looking inward in the context of becoming the little child. One of the things I try doing for myself is inner child meditation or inner child healing. So I look back at my inner child. I sit with my inner child during meditation. Inner child meaning that innocence that was there when you were 4 or 5 years old or 6 years old, the last that you could remember. And you sit over there and you just gaze and become and bask in your own curiosity, your childlike curiosity, where learning is not dictated by what society has to say. You just go around on the playground, you just pick up sand, you eat it, you don't like it, you spit it, and it's just that uncomplicated. And going back to feeling like that inner child who is a possibility of something great. That's one thing I try doing. The other thing is mindfulness meditation. Now, mindfulness meditation is something that is crucial because in your state of mind, it's very important to remember that the only moment that you really have is now. Sometimes when we say present moment, what we don't realize is that the present moment itself is a micro, nano, milli macro, milli nano of a second. It's like super, 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 quick. And for you to actually, when you sit in meditation, you go and experience that feeling, then you start feeling that actually time is infinite, and time is not something that is necessarily taking and going out of your control. you start to feel more in the moment and more in control of yourself. So I try practicing this as well. It's not easy, especially when someone says, hey, I have bills to pay, hey, I have to do this, I have to do that, how am I going to sit and meditate? Like, I have chores starting from like 5 in the morning, I have a kid to take care of, I have to go to work, my boss yells at me, we have to work for over weekends, we have to do this, I'm a musician, I want to do this, I have to do that, I'm not able to create something new, anything I do, it's like people are not simply tuning to it. By the time I create that piece of content, it already becomes outdated. There is so much of exhaustion, and most of it is you, because you're kind of like ascribing yourself to societal definitions is why you're burning out, right? So there is no one size for everyone, and it's very important that we actually like try and talk and better understand where it is you come from and what we can do for you specifically. And in the course of setting a one-on-one plan for you, I hope to better understand your situation, your circumstance, and as an accountability coach, give you a set of tasks to do that will help you work towards figuring out how you really feel, right? So it's a beautiful inward journey. Again, you burning out, remember there's no shame. If you're someone who's struggling with a mental health issue and you're already having to deal with work, more power to you. Please do seek help from a therapist. And I'm more than happy to put out more videos like this. If you have any more suggestions along this line, you want me to specifically create content on burnout, a lot more on some questions you have on burnout, do let me know. And I hope this video was helpful. I hope you believe that I'm here, I care, and you matter, and you're not alone. We're all in this together, and we will all work together and move forward. Even if you don't reach out, that's fine. This video is at least a representation of me that is helping you pull through the next few hours or the next few days. I think I'll consider that a blessing. So take care of yourself. Do subscribe to my channel, share my video to anyone whom you think will benefit from it. Check out my other videos as well. Have a great day, week, month, and year ahead. Take care of yourself.